Hello, this is the Porgcorner with your hosts Mark and Steven. We talk comics, film, books, television, science, and gaming. We come from different nerddoms. Steven lives and breathes Star Wars, and I'm a Superman and DC fanatic. We also touch on the Marvel Universe and other sci-fi and fantasy franchises. Now, let's get to episode 15, our Spider-Man Far From Home review. Far From Home takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame, placing it 6 years after Spider-Man Homecoming. Peter's back in high school, and another school trip is on the horizon. While in Europe, an attack by seemingly extra-dimensional elementals puts Peter and his friends in danger. The attacks are stopped by a new, mysterious character that goes by the name Mysterio. This review, by the way, is spoilers, so we're talking about the spoilers in the film itself. But, Steven, what was your overall impressions of Spider-Man Far From Home?
I really loved it. I thought it was an awesome adventure. I'm glad we got to go on it with them. I'm really excited to see where this post-Endgame universe takes us, which is basically going to be Phase 4 of the Marvel movie series. Right. Movie universe, I should say. I think that this one really is a good stepping stone for starting. Because I think I was talking to you about it earlier. This one really felt like almost like Iron Man, like the very first movie. It's almost filmed in the exact same style. Like it's a little bit like dated in the filming techniques, in my opinion. It kind of feels like it's a 10-year-old movie and not a 2019 movie. Right.
It feels, like you said, like a refresh or a restart to the MCU. And that's, Endgame put a pin on the first 11 years of the Marvel Universe, and Far From Home feels like a rebirth to everything. Like there's an excitement, a newness, and that goes with the character of Spider-Man because obviously he's the youngest Avenger. You know? He represents that freshness, that newness to everything. And I felt like, to get to your technique comment, like even subtle things like the color grading and the setting, all of this led towards that feeling of renewal, while Endgame had like grayish, bluish tones to it in a lot of the film. This one was bright, yellows, reds, all type of colors, and that goes to your point overall. What did you feel overall in terms of this film compared to Homecoming, the first Spider-Man film with Tom Holland in it?
I really liked Homecoming. I think it got mixed reviews, if I remember correctly.
It was strong on Rotten Tomatoes. Most critics did love it.
Yeah, and I don't understand that because I really liked it because to me it kind of told that, I don't know, we haven't had the high school Spider-Man. We've had the adult Spider-Man. I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man started in high school, but it really was not focused on that high school element.
Right.
And this really, I really enjoyed that one a lot too. And maybe it's because I like development stories. I like these origin stories and kind of where people came from and how they got there. And I don't know, that one, I liked it more than I think Rotten Tomato liked it.
Yeah. I've said it, I think, in a previous episode. Like, I was actually kind of disappointed by Homecoming when I first saw it a few years ago. To me, while Tom Holland is great, the characters were great, I understood what they were doing with the story, and it touched on the high school element, like you said. I just frankly felt bored with that film. And when I left the theater, I was just like, okay, it was good, but it wasn't memorable to me or anything. This one had a lot of those same elements of continuing the high school story, but it felt, again, to go back to the previous comments, fresh. It felt exciting. And during the movie, I turned to you a few times, and I was like, this is great. Like,
you were so excited.
I was like over the moon with this
You were so amped in this movie.
There were like specific scenes where I was like, I have to tell someone how awesome this is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Homecoming. Maybe I liked it because they spent a lot of time both with the hero and the villain.
Yeah.
So we did learn like why the villain was so bad and what he was actually doing.
Right.
And I feel in this one, Far From Home, we don't spend that much time with the villain.
Right.
Once we learn about the villain and his backstory, it's a kind of almost like a montage. It's really quick.
Is true. That's absolutely true. Actually, and I'm glad you bring up Mysterio, the villain, or is he? That's kind of what they were teasing with the trailers.
Right.
So, like, when you saw those initial trailers with Mysterio being presented as a hero, what did you think about that?
Well, like I didn't grow up reading the Spider-Man comics. I did watch the '90s TV show. Again, he's an adult,
Right.
but Mysterio's a bad guy. So
Yeah.
like going into this like who the villain is.
Right.
It's just how do we get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. If anyone who's watched the '90s TV show as kids or read the comics, you know that this character is a villain. I think it's maybe for the general audience who comes in not without that knowledge, maybe they have some questions about him, but they don't know that,
Yeah.
and so that's what they were going for.
Yeah, and I went into it kind of on that level. I try to go in. I try to go in kind of blind, and I thought, okay, there's two options here. He's a bad guy who's doing something bad and we don't know what, or something causes him to become bad.
Right.
And what in this movie is about to happen to turn him bad?
Turn him into that character.
Uh-huh.
So when I first saw the trailer, I think I talked to you about it. I was like, my theory initially was this entire thing we're seeing is an illusion.
Yeah. You did say that.
I was convinced because I grew up on the '90s TV show like you. I didn't read so many Spider-Man comics per se, one or two, but I never read the Mysterio ones. I just know him from the TV show, which was great. And I was like, this is totally a Mysterio move to have everything that you see be not real.
Yeah.
And so I thought Nick Fury when I saw him in the trailer and how he puts the dart in Peter's friend
Yeah.
from the chair. I was like, I know Fury would do that, but like, why is he in this movie? Like, that's weird. I thought he was an illusion. So going to this movie, I was like, okay, everything I'm seeing isn't happening right now. Like, and that kind of gets to one of the themes of the film actually, which is don't believe what you see, or in this modern age, what is accurate?
Yeah.
What can you trust as a source? All those type of questions we have in this crazy age.
Yeah, and I think one of the other underlying messages that they're trying to give us is that we've gotten to a point in society where like we're pretty much just going to believe whatever's put in front of us.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Right.
And that's kind of a problem.
Right.
And I think that's a something we really should be more focused on as society.
Or even on the flip side, because we've been burned by that, a lot of people are getting almost too skeptical with some things.
Yeah.
So, like me thinking that everything is an illusion was actually not entirely accurate. Like,
right.
I thought Fury and Maria Hill, all that was an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they're actually not. It's really just the elementals and Mysterio himself that are an illusion.
Yeah.
So it's like that gets to your point, though, or on the opposite side of it, that sometimes you can be overly skeptical.
Yeah, and maybe that kind of. Maybe those kind of cross each other.
Yeah.
You can be overly skeptical or you can just believe whatever's in front of you, but at the same time, the same result happens.
Right.
Where you're just like, well, it's going to happen. I can't stop it, so I'm just going to sit here and watch it.
Right.
And yeah.
I guess one thing that goes to your initial point about the villain is what was the point to this villain? What was his story? And you were saying it's kind of, you just get a montage of it. And you're right. Like, if I had to pin down what was Vulture's motivation, from the first Spider-Man film. It's easy. Like, he, basically is ruined by the big battle in New York from the Avengers, and he scraps together some things to basically start stealing things, weapons technology.
Right.
His motivation is money, right?
Sure.
What is the breakdown of this guy, of Mysterio? It's just revenge, but it didn't really seem like revenge. I can't put, like, one word on it.
Yeah, like, he wanted revenge. But then he just kept talking about how important it was that he become the next Iron Man. He's like, I will be the next Iron Man. Like,
right.
What was he trying to prove
and
or
it's like,
do that?
So in the film, in the montage, they show him that he was like a scientist that worked under Tony Stark, and he developed this hologram tech, and it's super advanced, and we see it in I think it was Winter Soldier. That scene where Tony has the glasses on.
Oh,
and
right.
He recreates his conversation with his dad with it.
Yeah.
And he calls it barf.
He does.
and Mysterio, the character, he just can't stand that. And so he says Tony Stark ruined him, basically, and he wants revenge on him. But in Far From Home, Tony Stark's dead already from Avengers. So what's his angle now?
Yeah.
And I think that's where there's a little bit of confusion with the character for me. Even though I really liked, actually, this character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to be his friend, but so he plays it right.
Yeah.
He wins over Peter Parker. He won all of us over as the audience. Like, yeah, we like him.
Yeah.
And then when he suddenly becomes the bad guy, you're like, I don't want to root for him anymore, but I also don't hate him.
Yeah, that is true. Like, I guess I really like Jake Gyllenhaal's performance as Mysterio.
Hmm.
I feel like the shift in personality was pretty stark, pretty striking, I guess. From going from this guy that we can kind of root for, oh, like I can sympathize with him, to like by the end, I'm just like he's just kind of a villain that's taking over the world in a way.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I don't know. I didn't feel like he suddenly changed gears so
Yeah.
much. I really felt like he was kind of on the same plane the whole time. But I did notice that this is something you've said 100 times before about villains. Is like as soon as he became the villain, he definitely like twirled his mustache. It was like,
Right. Yeah.
like it was real sudden.
Yeah, because he seemed to lack empathy, right?
Yeah.
That like, and it turned on a dime. At
Yeah.
first, when he's pulling on the charm, and maybe that's accurate. Like maybe he's a sociopath or something like that. He can just do that,
Yeah.
and that would make sense. But I guess there was knowing him from the first half of the movie, I kind of wanted to feel a sense of sympathy for what he was doing,
Yeah.
and it wasn't there.
Well, I think your point is right because remember he said that Tony fired him because he said he was crazy.
Right.
So he does have something off, right?
Yeah.
And we get a great example of that when he's in the training room with his team working on things.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking to them like he's a leader, right? He's like, "Oh, great. No, you're doing such a good job. Can we turn this up and turn that down and make this brighter and add more smoke over there?"
Mm-hmm.
And they do it. And he's like, "Oh, that's so great."
Right.
And then somebody's over there working on his cape and he's like, "Can you iron that out a little bit better?" "Oh, that's so great. Thank you so much." And then
Yeah.
the other guy at the computer says something and his eye kind of twitches.
Right.
And then suddenly he takes like a drone and he points it at him. He's like, "This is a live fire gun. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to put a bullet in your head."
Right.
Like it was just
Matter of
instant.
fact,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I really like the overall approach to this villain. What did you think about how he did this tech, the unraveling of the mystery of Mysterio overall? Because
I liked it. I did, and I went with it. But I don't. Maybe it's because real technology, is not even close to this. Like,
yeah,
how can you project outly a video without like we can't project holograms in
Right.
midair, right? Let alone a solid image that you can't see through.
right,
So him to create a creature with a hologram that's live and in your face, it was kind of so far unbelievable that I have a hard time believing what I was seeing.
yeah, the suspension of disbelief was
Yeah.
almost too great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could see that. I guess for me that wasn't so much an issue. I take things like Star Wars with the holograms. Now those were not like hard light like
Mhm.
this. They clearly are holograms. While this was like so realistic looking
Yeah.
that I guess I just took it to numbers, right? Like he had enough drones where you can make it happen. For me,
Sure.
the suspension of disbelief was not an issue for me. With that.
Okay. So I mean, and they call it projections. There's these like I'm projecting this. This is constantly being projected.
Right.
But again, like for the human eye currently to operate and see something like that, there has to be something for the image to bounce off of.
Yeah.
So if we don't have a screen, the projection can't be bounced back.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to conceive what his idea was and how it was being executed, but you just have to kind of go with it and just say, okay, they can do it.
Right.
They can do that technology.
And it's like that character like exists on that realm, right?
Mhm.
Like his backstory in the comics and in the TV show from the '90s is that he is a special effects artist and
Yeah.
he is just a master at this, and he gets hold of some advanced tech and he's able to do these crazy holograms, and that technology obviously just will never exist anytime soon.
Sure, absolutely
So,
right. So you have to just go with it. You just go with it in the movie. Just
right,
accept it.
Mysterio, like
Yeah.
it's all supposed to be kind of a mysterious thing. And one thing actually related to that I really really appreciated, and this is when an example of when I turned to you, was the first time he trapped Spider-Man in his holograms.
Yes, that was really cool.
That was incredible.
It was right off the pages.
Yeah,
That was the best part. I was like, I've seen that. Like I've flip through a couple comic books and I've seen this image.
Right.
Like that's so crazy.
It looked like things even from the '90s TV show,
Uh-huh.
and it felt like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching the screen, I was like, oh, I can feel what Peter's feeling in that moment.
Yeah,
Right?
you felt the anxiety the whole time. It was
Right.
awesome.
And it kept going too. So
Yeah.
the anxiety builds. You're
Yeah.
like, when does this end?
Uh-huh.
And then when you think it ends, it's still not real.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
Yeah.
And I felt like a lot of that was, again, I went in thinking everything's an illusion, so I had my skeptic, eye on this stuff. And so when you think the projections end, I was like, no, this is not really.
I
it's
didn't
too
believe
simple.
I didn't believe it ended when it ended.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that the movie's not even close to over. Like we've got way more time.
Right.
This has got a long way to go.
I think they played that off really well. For instance, like the at the end, to fast forward a bit to the end when Mysterio is supposedly shot and slumping.
Yeah.
And he starts to, give the glasses, the Edith glasses, back to Peter.
Uh-huh.
And Peter's spider sense goes off or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and Mysterio is actually behind him and about
Yeah.
to shoot him.
I really wish. So little tangent here. I wish they had kind of shown us the spider sense. Like
yeah.
in the comic book, it's like a little like wiggle line, and I think even on the in the cartoon show, there's like some wiggle lines that happen. I wish they had done that.
Yeah.
Like it would have been. It wouldn't have mattered at all. Like it could have just been like when you try to look through like steam or like heat.
Yeah.
I think they could have done that. And we would have been like, oh, he senses something.
Yeah.
And we could have done it with him.
Making it like not a real ridiculous thing, but like something you
Yeah,
can believe.
that we are seeing just because we're watching, not because it's actually coming off of his head or out of the air.
That would have been cool to see. And they call it the spider tingle.
They call it the Peter tingle. Peter tingle.
I really want them to just say spider sense. Like, come on, it's a cool term.
Once he kind of gets his role in the world, he will term it and give it that term to people.
Yeah.
And tell Aunt May like, hey, this is what it's called.
It's just too early to get rid
too
of the
early.
spider
Right.
tingle.
Yeah.
So kind of reverse gears a little bit. Did you have like a favorite character or character moment or even scene in this film overall?
I think my favorite character is Mary Jane.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny.
Played by Zendaya.
Yes, her dark humor.
Mm-hmm.
She says something like the Eiffel Tower was supposed to be a antenna to raise the dead or something, right?
Yeah.
And Peter's like, oh, that's dark. Maybe we shouldn't go there. And she goes, that's why it's my favorite place in the world. That's so great.
Yeah. And that's a very I don't know. It feels very like a 2019 and a real character. You know
it does.
what I mean?
Because you're so used to Mary Jane being this like cheerleader type, like sweet girl next door,
yeah.
right? But this is a very modern girl next door. Like,
right.
She's a little awkward. She's got a dark sense of humor. You're trying to understand her, and you can't.
Right.
So it's just she plays it very well.
Yeah, and she, she's also awkward in her own right, just like Peter, kind of outcasty, but there's not really outcasts in this group of friends, which is also kind of modern.
I think that's great too.
Yeah, it's not the '80s stereotypical film, but it's a modern take on a coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
They did this really well in Homecoming, and they've continued that in this one, where there aren't these separated groups in high school. So
right.
I think they're really honing into that with the character, and I like that they're keeping it in high school, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes to that.
Yeah, and that actually goes into one of my favorite things is that Flash, who's his bully,
right.
is shorter than him, smaller than him. He's a modern bully, if you will. He's not. He uses his words.
He's a wisecracking jerk.
Yeah, he's just a big jerk, and I think that is a really great rendition of that character.
Yeah. I really like that actor who's playing him too, because
Yeah.
we've seen him grow from Homecoming to this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the same jerk, but you can sense a little bit of a change in him as well. I feel like he has his own little arc in the background.
He does. I mean? It's very important to him that he be like even at the end when he shows up at the airport and he's like his driver shows up and he's like, I guess mother couldn't make it again.
Right.
you know, and
Right.
he's like, and the driver's like, yeah, I'm here to pick you up because mom can't make it.
It's like a little
You're
hint
like,
into
oh,
his
what's
background.
happening there?
Right. I really like that. And
Hmm.
his Peter's best friend. I'm blanking on the name of the character, but he was in the first one. He knows his secret from that one, and
Hmm.
he's in this one. And he gets a girlfriend in this film.
It's
Which
the greatest. It's so funny. The whole thing is so funny. He's like, I'm doing this American Bachelor thing
right
in Europe,
in Europe.
and almost as soon as he gets there, not even before he
They,
gets there, he's
yeah,
got the girlfriend from the tour
they
or
sit
from the class.
together on the plane,
Yeah,
and we get off the plane, and the movie's like, "Oh yeah, they're an item now,"
yeah,
and we're put into the perspective of Peter on that. It's like what just happened?
yeah,
Like a 9-hour flight, and you guys are together, and
yeah,
yeah, and they play that through the whole film.
yeah. The
So
character's name is Ned.
Ned,
Ned.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
and I like the actor who plays him
yeah, his
too.
name is Jacob Batalon.
Jacob Batalon, yeah.
Yeah.
So props to him. Keep. Also, there's growth in this character too. I actually wanted to mention this. So from the first film, you know how like a lot of people talk about the trope of the damsel in distress, right?
Hmm.
There's also a trope of like the best friend in a film, right?
Right.
Background character, there for support or comedic purposes or whatever. Ned in the first film in Homecoming kind of felt like that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
This one, he started to feel like his own man, if you will, for lack of a better term, his
Hmm.
own character that's diverging from Peter a bit. And he says like little things that say, um, hey Peter, you have to do this to, save our trip or whatever.
Yeah.
He's kind of taking on a role of not just best friend, but almost not mentor either, but kind of like someone who gives advice,
I think.
someone that tries to keep things in perspective for Peter.
I think that is a creative choice for the storytelling. I think that we're trying to get the whole time. Peter's trying to find out who he is and where he should be, and I think he's leaning towards his prior to being Spider-Man life.
Right.
Leaning on Ned for things, only hanging out with him. Leaning on his aunt for
Hmm.
stuff. But like everybody's kind of growing and becoming individuals, and I think that's what I think that's actually what we're talking about here.
Right.
And I think maybe that's something Peter's learning through this.
Right, right. Ned almost feels, and they kind of play it off for comedy in the film, but he feels like he's matured in a way that Peter has not.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, Peter saved the world, like, he's done a lot of major things, but
Did Ned survive the snap, or was he?
I think he would have had to just because they're the same age.
That's my thought. They look like the same age. But do you remember at the end of Endgame when Peter goes to school and Ned's already in the hallway
Oh, and they
and he's
hug.
super excited to see him? So that tells me that's somebody that hasn't seen somebody in 5 years.
That's a good point.
So he might actually be 5 years older than Peter.
Right, but he just looks the same.
Yeah.
Like,
I look the same.
yeah. No, that's a really good point. I think they said something about that in the when they start the movie. They have the kids' high school show,
Yeah.
and they say like some people had to repeat a grade or whatever.
Yeah, basically, if
The
you went,
blip.
if you went in, if you got snapped and then you reappeared, you stayed the same age.
Right,
But everybody else who was 5 years younger is now 5 years older.
right,
So they showed like one of the kids was 10 years old. Now he's 15,
right.
and he's huge. Like he's a big, wide-shouldered basketball player, and he was little bitty, skinny guy before.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wonder how how that fits together with the Ned.
Yeah, and that might have
stuff.
been what we're seeing as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Did you have like to go back to the question about like a favorite scene in this or?
I don't know. I think we're on the same page. I think our
Yeah.
favorite scene was definitely Mysterio capturing
The
Peter,
hologram.
Spider-Man in the hologram.
And did you have like a favorite, or what do you think of the performances? Not a favorite, but just the performances of the actors themselves. Even Tom Holland, like Spider-Man.
Uh, Obviously, I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, so I want to see more of him.
Hmm.
I think he does a really good job. I really like his. I don't know. His persona of Spider-Man is a little bit different than what we've seen before,
Right.
and a little bit different than what we've even had in both comics or in any cartoon or movie.
Hmm.
So I really like his performance.
So I think this is a film where Tom Holland really, to me, became Spider-Man in my mind.
Hmm.
Like to me, he clearly surpasses at this point from this film Tobey Maguire's take and Andrew Garfield's take from before.
Hmm.
And he feels like a 16-year-old kid. Like I mean, he's like what 25 or something, the actor.
Yeah.
But like he actually looks like a 16-year-old
Sure,
kid,
sure.
and he plays that really well. I also really like that in terms of Tom Holland's performance in this, that growth we see in his
Mm-hmm.
performance because of the story element of Tony Stark. It kind of ties into it
Sure.
heavily,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
see
the
that.
first film, Tony Stark's a mentor, Peter's a mentee. Oh, actually, that was Civil War. And then we get into Homecoming,
Right, right.
and then Endgame, Infinity War, Endgame, and now we're here. So they've had like 5 movies or 4 movies
Yeah.
to develop that relationship, and this time it felt really real because he had to deal with his death and also move beyond it.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it as well, Peter Parker, he doesn't have parents. He doesn't have Uncle Ben. He is constantly trying to find a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what Mysterio takes advantage of as well.
Right.
And I think it's really easy to do that to somebody who is searching for a father figure.
Yeah, a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spider-Man's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, that scene in the bar where they go out after they defeat the fake fire elemental, and Mysterio, luring him into a trap, takes him to a bar, and the whole aim is to get these Edith glasses that Tony Stark left for Peter. And Peter, in the emotional state he's in, is like, you are the Iron Man. You are the person that lives up to Tony's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
These glasses aren't meant for me. They're meant for you. And he just gives them away,
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
And it goes to how hurt or broken or lost Peter is in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he figures out what's going on, he turns it on the plane.
Yeah.
With Happy.
On the plane. It's when he kind of, you can almost see him age almost instantly.
Right.
Just suddenly he's just like, I'm in charge. I have to do adult things. I have to be the person that makes the shots, calls the shots.
Right. Happy kind of instills that in him. He's like, hey, you're not Iron Man. No one ever can be. You're not Tony.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he does.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really key scene. It was a really well filmed scene as well, and really well acted overall. And just to kind of continue on this little this train of thought with Iron Man, what do you think of his kind of presence, even in death, in this film? Because
it's super powerful because it impacts both civilians and the supers. Anybody,
right.
Whether he's alive or dead, they are constantly using him as a martyr. Kind of a sign of what we've accomplished and what we can continue to do.
Someone said it, I think, in an Endgame review, and I remember I held on to it. It was like, even though Iron Man's story is done, well, Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man is done, right? From Endgame, he died.
Yep.
He will continue to have an impact on the MCU for years to come.
Sure.
He can even have that impact via AI in the future if they wanted to bring back the actor.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've already shown they can do that.
Yeah.
So he's always going to be there. He just won't be a physical human in a suit flying around.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, as long as the MCU is as long as they continue this timeline, then yeah, I agree. Yeah. He has to be it. He will continue to be there, a presence.
I think the only major characters I haven't touched on a bit are Nick Fury and Maria Hill. They had a presence in this film, which even from the trailers, like I mentioned earlier, I felt was a little weird. Like, why are they so involved in this?
Yeah.
The Spider-Man story. And then throughout the film, they would cut to them. They would have these little more than cameos throughout the film, which I found strange. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it felt weird, but at the same time, I was trying to figure out how would Mysterio and Spider-Man team up if there wasn't this like catalyst that kept trying to bring them together.
Shield.
Yeah, Shield.
Yeah.
Right? If it wasn't for Fury constantly being like, you have to be here, you have to help us, yada yada. Like, would he have actually stayed and helped Mysterio prior to like becoming friends with him?
Probably not, because like the whole start of the film, you're right, is Peter being like, I'm on vacation. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, he's constantly trying to get out of Spider-Man work.
Right. And Fury and Maria Hill are the ones that get him back. Forced him, essentially.
Yeah.
They basically kidnapped him.
They kidnapped
his entire class.
Yeah.
Which was actually really funny to see that. Yeah, I mean, so overall, final thoughts on this film. What did you think? And MCU going forward.
Yeah, so final thoughts on the movie. So I have a final thought and I have a final thought on the movie. Final thought, the Spider-Man suit. I am kind of upset that we've gone back to a weave style suit. Like he's got the nanobot suit in his room.
Right.
The metal nanobot suit, right?
Right.
And they even show it. It's in its little incubator, like spinning around, like the nanobots are moving around. And clearly, he can't like pack that giant thing into his bag.
Yeah.
So his aunt, sneaks his traditional weave,
Right, from like the
sewn
Civil War suit.
right, his Civil War suit into the bag, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's his travel suit, let's say. But when the final suit is when he gets to make a new suit at the end, why is it a weave suit and not a nanobot suit? Why are nanobots not the moving forward technology for
from
suits?
the plane when he makes it on the
right,
plane?
when he makes it on the plane, like why is there not more nanobots?
I don't know. I mean, maybe that technology it doesn't exist on the plane.
Maybe.
Or maybe he felt like that's not what he needed for that particular fight. Because remember, he's using Tony's tech to build the suit how he wants it.
Yeah.
And he's in that mindset where I have a plan. I know how to do this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't need fancy nanotech suit. I just need my traditional suit with a couple other tweaks here and there. And he goes at it really from a scientist perspective. What do I need to tackle this problem? Because Peter's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was a really easy leap to say he knows what he's doing and he's just going to do it. Even though maybe the nanotech is more armor or whatever, he was like, I don't need that. I need to do it this way.
I mean, that's possible because obviously I don't have an answer, so I'll take that. But
Yeah.
I really feel like whatever the technology is in the plane should have, like, nanobots should just be what makes everything from now on. Like, you progress in one direction, but
Right.
I guess it's possible.
And I think also it goes to the element of the general theme of moving beyond Tony in a way and becoming his own person.
That was one thought I had in the back of my mind is maybe we're just trying to get away from Iron Man.
I think that's more
like he's trying to become his own Spider-Man.
Yeah, and also this goes to the question of where do I think the MCU is going forward. So we have that cosmic element, Captain Marvel and all that out in the universe, Thor, Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, at least in this beginning stage, they're probably going to get more intimate into the ground level heroes in this Phase 4. So, Spider-Man, I think maybe they're moving him back to, send him to space.
Yeah.
He died in space.
Yeah, right.
He fought Thanos.
Yeah.
Let's get back to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, kind of the traditional Tobey Maguire style that we saw, right, in the movies.
Yeah.
By the end, that's what we see. So he needs that suit to make that believable, I feel like.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, there is Black Panther, which I think is going to be, again, a more still centered on a homegrown, grounded level threat. That's my theory. And then who is the other major Phase 4?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. And that one...
And a Guardians movie. There'll be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, too.
So you're going to have your cosmic people and you're going to have your grounded. And that's the approach I want them to take with going back to the grounded stuff after the whole Thanos epic. But
yeah. I'd like to see where Doctor Strange, where his storyline goes. Because I feel like whatever he does or whatever he's involved with will be the biggest impact for the entire universe and all of the other characters.
Right, the thread that connects everything was Iron Man. Now you expect that to kind of be Doctor Strange, and that makes sense as well. Okay, so overall, I think we both really liked the film. I obviously just loved the film, probably beyond the moon about it.
Yeah.
For me, it's automatically up there as one of my top MCU films. I'll do rankings later, but it's
you were so excited. You came out of it and you're like, that was the best Marvel movie ever.
I did not say that. I said it's one of the best.
You said it was one of the best. Okay, you said one of the best. And I was like, whoa, Mark, that's crazy. I really liked it because it definitely opens up Phase 4.
Yes.
Like Endgame really felt conclusive. Like if they stopped MCU movies after that, we'd be like, okay, I get it. That was very conclusive. Done. But this one definitely opens it right back up. And you're like, whoa, let's go. I'm ready.
That excitement, I think,
Yeah.
that excitement of when we first saw Iron Man in 2008,
Yeah.
I think that was the excitement this one brought back. Or even Spider-Man in 2002.
Yeah.
That's, for me, kind of what I felt going out of this. And I was like, let's dive back into this stuff, Like, this is great. So anyway, now, for another round of Emperor Palpatine's... What was the name of this again?
It's called Emperor Palpatine's Lightning Round. This week's topic is Wonder Woman.
All right, nice.
All right,
DC character. Let's go.
Yeah. Question 1. Who created Wonder Woman?
Oh, man. He was like a therapist.
Yep.
Started with an M, I think.
Yep.
Masters?
Marston.
Marston?
Marston.
Nice.
Marston.
Dude, is that a
That's
half
his
point
name.
or is that a full point?
That's his last. Yeah, I give it to you because
Awesome.
that was way better than I was ever gonna do. I was not gonna get it right.
Awesome.
Okay, not exactly a Wonder Woman question, but what great invention did Marston invent?
Oh, the lie detector.
You're absolutely right. He created the lie detector test, which later went into the polygraph machine.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah.
2 for 2.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Question 3. What is the name of the island the Amazons live on?
Themyscira.
Themyscira. Do you know what it was called before it was called that?
In the comics?
Yeah, like it was called, get this, Paradise Island.
Oh, yeah.
It was called Paradise Island before they changed it to
Themyscira.
the Themyscira.
I've definitely heard that term before, but I completely forgot.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. But it's funny because it's full of women.
Right.
You know, like
clearly written by a man.
Clearly written by a man. Yeah. Question 4: Is Wonder Woman stronger than Superman?
No.
Uh.
I'm gonna disagree.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. What's the answer?
The answer is no.
Okay. Good. Try to trick me, man.
To trick you. But she is faster in reaction time and fighting reflexes. This makes her more versatile.
Yes, she's a better fighter, better warrior than Superman is.
Yeah.
If they were same power level, she would beat him every time.
Absolutely.
But they're not.
Okay, question 5, your favorite question. According to Ranker.com's top 100 superheroes, what rank did Wonder Woman receive?
I'm gonna say 4.
Ooh, too high. She came in 10th.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
She's top 10 though.
She should be top 5
out of
every time.
100.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's just my personal opinion.
All right, that concludes another episode of Emperor Palpatine's Lightning Round. Thank you for playing, Mark.
All right, Steven. We'll get to probably another Marvel character next week.
Sometime I'm going to do Star Wars, just so I can stump you and give really fun facts to the audience.
Maybe I'll have to come up with my own game.
Maybe, yeah.
And we'll just ask Star Wars questions.
There you go.
All right, thanks for joining us. Give us your thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home. Go to our social media at the Porgcorner on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what you thought of the film. We obviously both really liked it, so we want to hear what you guys think. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.